It was my sister's wedding day. The sun shone through the stained glass into the church. The melody of the organ was solemn and sacred. Everyone was in joy, except me. My heart was nailed like a nail and couldn't breathe, because the groom standing on the altar was once the only man I had ever loved. I clutched the bouquet and my knuckles were white. No one knew that for summers ago, I had a brief but fiery love affair with him in Paris. We had promised to go into the future together, but then he disappeared without warning, leaving only a cold letter. And now, wearing a ring, he took my sister's hand. After the wedding, all the guests flocked to the banquet hall, laughter and clinking glasses one after another. But I was like a shadow abandoned in a corner, and his gaze just now echoed in my mind. It was not an illusion. He was looking at me, and there was a struggle and depression in his eyes. I was holding a glass of champagne, but my fingers were trembling slightly. 4 years ago, the night he suddenly disappeared, I cried until I was exhausted, called all the phone calls, wrote countless emails, but never responded, until I received that short letter. Forget me. I thought he had abandoned me. I hated, resented, and tried to start over. But today, when he took my sister's hand, it seemed as if everything had turned into a ridiculous joke. Why did he marry her? What was the truth 4 years ago? Just as I was about to collapse, an unexpected voice rang in my ears. Are you still heartbroken for him? I turned around abruptly and saw my cousin Ethan, staring at me with deep eyes. He is the heir of the family business, and he is very sophisticated. He has paid special attention to me since he was a child. His eyes made my heart tremble, as if he had always known something. What do you mean? My voice trembled. Ethan took a slow sip of red wine, and a meaningful smile arose on the corner of his lips. There are some things you will know sooner or later. 4 years ago, he did not leave you voluntarily, but was forced. I held my breath, as if I had been stabbed hard by a sharp sword. Ethan didn't say any more, as if he was hanging me on purpose. Only as he left, he whispered a sentence. Don't believe what your eyes see, my dear. Sometimes the truth is crueler than you think. I stood there, the champagne almost slipping out of my hand, forced to leave. So, who is behind it? Why break us up? Looking over the crowd, I saw my sister holding the groom's arm, smiling like a flower. The groom's smile was stiff like a long-worn mask. A dangerous thought suddenly surged in my heart. This marriage is a conspiracy, and I must uncover it. The lights in the ballroom were gorgeous and bright, and in the middle of the dance floor was my sister dancing slowly with him. I stood in the corner, my eyes following him uncontrollably. The memory of Paris that night came to my mind like a tide. The oath on the banks of the Seine, the embrace on the midnight streets, the words he once clasped my hand and said, no matter what happens, I will not let you go. But now he has given his hand to someone else. The pain in my heart is like a fire. I hold the wine glass and turn to leave, but I bump into him at the end of the corridor. I'm sorry, I whispered in a panic, but I didn't dare to look him directly. He reached out and pressed the glass in my hand. In that moment, the temperature of my palm burned my heart out of control. We need to talk. His voice was low and hoarse, as if it had been suppressed for too long. I was stunned, and my breathing suddenly rushed. But before I could speak, I heard my sister's voice behind me. Dear, you are here. I took a step back, like a sinner caught stealing, and his expression tightened for a moment, and then he returned to a proper smile, turned around and took my sister's hand. I watched this scene, and my chest seemed to be torn. But just as he turned around, his fingertips quietly ran across the back of my hand, extremely light, but so real that my whole body trembled. At that moment, I understood. He is not giving up completely, but trying his best to endure. What is he enduring? Who is he afraid of? The night was getting darker, and I could no longer suppress the doubts in my heart. When the banquet was over, I deliberately left behind, and after everyone dispersed, I walked into the back garden alone. Sure enough, he was there. The suit jacket was untied by him, and my eyebrows were full of exhaustion. I mustered up my courage and walked over, my voice trembling. Tell me, why? Why did you disappear 4 years ago? Why did you marry her? He suddenly looked up, and there was a dark tide in his eyes. After a long time, he whispered, you won't understand. That year, I had no choice. No choice? I sneered, but tears blurred my eyes. That's your explanation for me? A no choice? He stepped forward and suddenly pressed me into the stone pillars of the garden. Breathing interlaced, his voice was so low that it trembled. Do you think I have no pain? Do you think that I have lived an easy life these years? I married her not because of love, but because The wind whistled in my ears, but I could only hear the violent sound of his heartbeat. "What are you hiding?" I almost begged. He was silent for a long time, and the corners of his lips raised bitterly. "The truth will destroy you, but if you must know, get ready to go to hell with me." Before he finished speaking, footsteps came from a distance. He instantly retreated, recovering his indifferent expression, as if nothing had happened just now. As for me, I have been pushed into an abyss that cannot be turned back. I was stunned, my breathing suddenly rushed. But before I could speak, I heard my sister's voice behind me. "Dear, you are here." I took a step back, like a sinner caught stealing, and his expression tightened for a moment, and then he returned to his proper smile, turned around and took my sister's hand. I watched this scene, and my chest seemed to be torn. But just as he turned around, his fingertips quietly scratched the back of my hand. It was extremely light, but it was so real that my whole body trembled. At that moment, I understood. He was not giving up completely, but trying his best to endure. What to endure? The wind whistled in my ears, but I could only hear the violent sound of his heartbeat. "What are you hiding?" I almost begged. He was silent for a long time, and the corners of his lips raised bitterly. "The truth will destroy you, but if you must know, be ready to go to hell with me." Before he finished speaking, footsteps came from a distance. He instantly retreated, returning to his indifferent expression, as if nothing had happened just now. "And I have been pushed into an abyss that cannot be turned back." That night, I almost stayed up all night. Every word of his echoed in my mind, like a sharp knife, cutting open my sanity. "If I don't marry her, you will lose everything. The truth will destroy you." What do these words mean? Why does he wear a mask of indifference when he clearly still cares about me? The next morning, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. Only a few short words. "See you tonight at the old library." There was a signature, but I knew it was him. As night fell, I wore the most ordinary coat, deliberately lowering the brim of my hat, and quietly came to the long-abandoned library. Pushing open the heavy wooden door, dust came to my face. Under the dim light, he was indeed there. He stood in front of the window with his back to me, and he slowly turned around when he heard footsteps. The moment his eyes met, the air seemed to freeze. "You're still here?" His voice was mixed with exhaustion and complex emotions. I bit my lips and said almost like a question, "You owe me an explanation." He was silent for a long time, approached me, his voice was low and suppressed. "Emma, I married your sister not because I wanted to, but because she has the evidence that can destroy my father." I was stunned, my mind was blank. "Evidence? What evidence?" His eyes suddenly became gloomy, as if struggling to say it. After a while, he whispered, "A few years ago, my father did some illegal things to save the company: false accounting, secret money transfers. If these came to light, he would be discredited and the night group would collapse." My heart was hit by a heavy hammer. "So, she used these to threaten you?" He smiled wryly, his eyes full of helplessness. "Yes, she forced me to marry her or give the evidence to the prosecutor." "Emma, I can't watch my father be destroyed." My heart was cold. It turned out that the cruelty of fate was not that he did not love enough, but that love was blackmailed into shackles. He suddenly reached out and held my shoulder tightly, his eyes almost engulfing me. "Do you understand? I never wanted to leave you, but I had no choice." My throat tightened and my voice trembled. "So, you would rather let me hate you than guard a lie?" He didn't answer, just pulled me into his arms. My breath was hot and dangerous. "Emma, I swear, one day I will tear the truth apart and drag her and those people to hell." At this moment, bang! The door of the library was pushed open, and dazzling lights came in. A cold voice sounded, "Sister, what are you doing here?" I turned around abruptly. It was her, my sister. She had a faint smile on her face, as if she had expected everything. My heart suddenly went cold. This secret date was finally caught by her.